Boston finished the game on a 17-2 run to beat Toronto tonight, 117-108, and end the Raptors' 5-game win streak. Kyrie Irving had 27 and a career-high 18 assists, and made some news after the game as well when he tried to explain his mindset for the criticism or complaint about shot selection at the end of the Orlando game, what he was saying about some of his young teammates as well, and the fact that he had to call LeBron James to discuss it all. Here's what he said after the game.
I had to call Bron, and tell him, I apologize for being that young player that wanted to everything at his fingertips, and I wanted everything to be at, my threshold. I wanted to be the guy that led us to championship. I wanted to be the leader. I wanted to be all that, and the responsibility of being the best player in the world and leading a team is something that's not meant for many people. And Bron was one of those guys that came to Cleveland and tried to really show us what it's like to win a championship, and it was hard for him. And sometimes getting the most out of the group, it's not the easiest thing in the world. And like I said, only few are meant for it or chosen for it. And I feel like the best person to call was him because, he's been in the situation. He's been there with me where I've been the young guy of, being a 22-year-old kid and, wanting everything. He wanted everything right now, coming off an all-star year starting. And then, this heck of a presence comes back, and now I got to adjust my game to this guy. And, you take it personal, but at the end of the day, he just wants what's best. And he has a legacy he wants to leave, and he has a window he wants to capture. So I think what that brought me back to is all right, how do I get the best out of this group of the success they had last year, and then helping them realize what it takes to win a championship.
Interesting perspective from Kyrie Irving. What do you guys make of what he said and the fact that he felt like he needed to call LeBron James to talk it over?
I don't mind him calling LeBron James and talking it over. I'm not sure if this needed to be said to the media or played out in front of the media because of how it could look to certain people in the locker room. It could look like a passive-aggressive shot to some of the younger guys. I'm not sure if that was the intent, but I know it could be looked at that way and it could be interpreted that way, that now Kyrie is LeBron and the guys on Boston are the young guys that don't want to listen. And you just don't want to get caught up in that. And I'm sure it was probably unintentional by Kyrie. He probably just really, the moment came full circle that he is now where LeBron used to be and he understands all the teachings that he was trying to learn in Cleveland. But it's one of those, it can come off weird and some guys in the locker room could interpret it differently.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, you can call LeBron James. You played with him. You shared a great great moments with him in Cleveland. But to talk about that, I mean, you sort of trying to read between the lines there and interpret what he's trying to say. And he's, kind of saying that the young guys are in the same position that maybe he was in, where he was frustrated and wanted to do more.
Right.
And, you just keep that to yourself. Obviously, I think if the intention is to try to help lead and get these players to the promised land, to try to do what you did, what LeBron did for you and your team, try to do the same for the Celtics there. But I don't know, I think the world of Kyrie, the brotherhood is strong, but I don't know.
What brotherhood?
That's right. You guys don't have a brotherhood, but the brotherhood at Duke.
How dare you?
Is strong. And
how dare you?
But no, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how. I agree with you. I don't know if I would say that. I don't know how that's interpreted. I don't know how I would feel as a teammate, young or old, having him sort of indirectly make those comments and maybe potentially throwing me under the bus.
It's interesting, and it strikes me that it's maybe not a big deal if they've already had this conversation in the locker room with these young guys, and maybe he said, look, I was you, right? I was you a few years ago.
But there's certain things, Matt, that go on in the locker room that stay in the locker room.
Understood.
And
keep it in-house.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes things will get out, leaks, things, but not an interview you're on TV. And so, but we don't know what happened, and, we don't know what was said and what was discussed.
Right.
But I just would prefer you keep that in-house.
I also felt like it was a little bit of a self-reflection for him. And again, maybe he doesn't need to say this publicly, but what you said, it's kind of come full circle and he realizes, oh, I was sort of a pain in the butt back when I was playing with LeBron, and because I had a different perspective back then.
Yeah, but
it was sort of introspective to me.
Yeah, and you also have to realize at that point he didn't really like when LeBron went out there and made comments in the media as well, because whenever you say comments like the young guys, it divides the team. It makes it seem like it's the young guys versus the old guys. And when you really look at the film, it's going to tell you that everybody's messing up. Young guys, old guys, guys in the middle. everybody's going to have times where they don't do the right job or they take a shot that's maybe out of character for them or maybe they could have made one more pass. So you just have to watch how you phrase things because you never want something to come off as divisive. When you're a young team and you're trying to figure it out to go be a championship contender, you're trying to get everybody on the same page. Anything that's not about that, you need to just throw it out as white noise.
And Matt, I just want to apologize. In my second year, I was difficult here on the set.
You were a pain in the butt.
I want to apologize.
You were a huge pain
for being
in the butt.
difficult.
I'm not apologizing. I'm not apologizing for nothing. And I know I was difficult. I've been difficult everywhere I've been.
By the way, while we were having this discussion, Steph Curry had a 20-point quarter.
Wow.
That game is now tied. Pelicans led by Toronto's 5-game win streak, and I don't have the standings in front of me. I believe that knocked Toronto out of the best record in the league, right? Milwaukee won tonight?
Something like it.
I'll double check this.
Milwaukee is, Milwaukee's 32-12. Milwaukee's number one.
117-108. Thank you very much. There's your final, and here's Kyrie Irving. Not that Kyrie necessarily had to say something about who should be closing games in Boston, but there's no better evidence than what we just saw.
Yeah, and when we talked about it there, I mean, probably one of the best closers. Won games, playoff games, championship, game 7s. And they needed that. I mean, the 3 bad losses they had on the road at Orlando, at Miami, Brooklyn as well. So to get back home against a great team, Kyrie Irving came out, played great. Of course, Toronto, give them credit. They fought back in the game, made it a close game, but Irving down the stretch is just too good.
Yeah, Irving down the stretch is incredible, and I liked how he bounced back from the adversity that he had been through. There, obviously, in the Orlando game, he wasn't happy with the way the game ended. He didn't get the ball, felt that he should have gotten the ball. Made some comments that his teammates didn't like. He later reeled it back in, but instead of harping on it, he made his apology, went past it, and this game he proved why he needs to be the guy that gets the ball at the end of the game. And so it's more about showing than talking about it with your mouth. He showed why he should be the closer, hitting big shot after big shot. And I think that's something that these young guys on this team can respect because you can talk about it, but these young guys last year, they were a game away from the NBA Finals, so all the lip service doesn't matter. They want to see it.
Right.
And tonight, Kyrie showed it. Uncle Drew was in the building, and I mean, he was saying Uncle Drew needs the ball in the clutch.
His clutch resume is pretty good, as you made mention of.
Sometimes people forget, so you got to, just when they forget, you got to remind them who you really are.
You're from Missouri, right?
Yes.
Show me state.
You got to show me.
Sometimes you got, especially younger people.
It's absolutely true. So 2-1, Boston leads the season series now. What do you feel like you know about these two teams were they to hook up in a playoff series?
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely not. Because Boston has been so inconsistent all year long. They have these big wins, and then they will baffle you, and they'll get blown out by somebody that they shouldn't be blown out by. So I'm waiting to see for Boston to show me some consistency. I know they have the best talent in the Eastern Conference. I'm waiting for that talent to come together consistently like it did tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Brendan said it best. I mean, we see this performance tonight by Boston, but then they're the type of team that, next time could be blown out by 25. And so they have to figure it out. I think we all knew it would take some time as you reinsert Kyrie Irving from last year, Hayward coming off the injury, guys who had great roles last year and came out of, Tatum and Brown. But we thought it'd be figured out by now. And it's a little bit alarming. Great win tonight, but they didn't look great the last 3 games.
Right.
They can put together maybe the second half of the season, just a run of games, 2 or 3 weeks where they get hot and they start playing the basketball we all anticipated. Then you might start saying, okay, this is the Boston team. But until then, I'd probably go more with Toronto just because I know what I'm going to get from Toronto. The consistency of what they've shown throughout the season will carry over to the playoffs.
Even within this game in the fourth quarter when Toronto was going on I think it was a 9-0 or 10-0 run to get back into the game and retake the lead, Boston had some terrible possessions before Kyrie kind of took over the game.
That's the difference between these two teams. The consistency that Toronto has, the role definition. Though you rarely see guys get out of character for the Toronto Raptors. Everybody knows their role. We played through Kyle Lowry, we played through Kawhi, and I get my shots off of them, and that's why everything moves smoothly. When you watch Boston, those Boston players sometimes hold the ball just a second too much. And that 1 second, that's the difference between getting a good shot and a great shot because they're all looking and trying to figure out when is it my turn to get mine? And that can be a problem at times when you don't have those roles clearly defined.
No, I mean, you said it best. I mean, you look at Boston, and obviously Kyrie Irving is who he is. He's the best player on the team. But, Tatum was the go-to guy last year in the playoffs. And then you have, Terry Rozier, who has a chip on his shoulder and feels like he should be getting his numbers. Hayward is a guy who's been accustomed to being that guy. So you have a lot of guys who are accustomed to being the alpha male and now having to figure out how to adjust and adapt and fit in. And it's not working right now. Whereas, it's not working consistently.
Right.
But in Toronto, it's clearly defined.
Sure.
And so that's why they've been able to play at a high level, pretty consistent throughout the year.
Good one tonight in Boston, and the Celtics beat Toronto 117-108. Checking in on the Pelicans.